Hello, welcome to Clash of the Rams, the sports talk show. I'm your host, Jeremy Hayes. Along with me, we have Eric Rizzo, Davison Perez,
Good evening, everybody.
and Jared Doherty.
Hello?
All right, guys. Somewhat big news for Boston last week.
So,
Boston Red Sox are world champions. So, what are your thoughts on them finally? This is a big year, obviously, for Boston. So, just give me your thoughts on the Red Sox season and what this means to Boston. Eric?
Well, it's pretty amazing. I mean, I remember we sat here around this time last year and discussed what they needed to do to get back to this point, rebuild and all that good stuff. But it's amazing after the year 69 and 93 last year, Bobby Valentine and all that disaster that came with him as manager. And I don't think there were too many people, if anybody, that expected this kind of a turnaround this fast. But it's amazing. It's great for the city after what happened here in April. To have a parade go by behind us the other day is remarkable.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I'm one of those guys that was on the baseball segment where we were making our predictions about who was going to make it to the World Series this year. And I actually predicted the Red Sox to actually make it there to the World Series, albeit I chose them to go against the Nationals. But listen, it was a great win. Everybody contributed. Like I've been saying every single episode, somehow, some way, everything came together exactly the way it was supposed to be. Things were obviously looking grim after last season with Bobby Valentine, like you mentioned, Eric, and like the whole debacle that ensued with the fried chicken and all of this hoopla and et cetera. But, you know, it's great to see Boston fans have now had the chance to honor the Red Sox with the parade that passed. And, you know, it's great. It's great for the city.
Yeah, in our final episode last year, I was the first one to debate that the Red Sox are going to do horrible. I said Toronto was going to win the division. I had no hope in the Red Sox. But just props to Ben Cherington for bringing in the right people. He brought in the Johnny Gomes, the Mike Napolis. He brought in Shane Victorino, all these people who could succeed in Boston. Adrian Gonzalez, Kyle Crawford, they couldn't. He brought in the guys that had the character element for the locker room and on the field who just brought Fenway Park back to life this season.
It's a great point by Jared. Ben Cherington deserves so much credit for the moves that every single guy he brought in worked. Koji Uehara became the best closer in baseball. Napoli, Gomes, Victorino, these guys all had big hits at the biggest times in the biggest games in the playoffs. He hit David Ross. All of these guys worked. They all fit in. The chemistry was there. The cohesion was there. Everybody liked each other. Everybody wanted to win for each other, for the city. And everything came together.
To add to your point right there, I think one of the keys of the Red Sox beating the Cardinals in the World Series was 2 outs, runners in scoring position. The Red Sox when the Cardinals out-hit the Red Sox 45-41 in this entire series. But it was when the moment really counted, when they needed that timely big hit, the Red Sox hit it. Two outs, runners in scoring position, the Red Sox end up with 6 hits and 10 runs. Batted like 300. I think it was exactly 300. The Cardinals were right around 150. Just the Cardinals could not produce the big hit when they needed to, and that's why I think the Red Sox really won this World Series, because they needed that timely hit, and these guys at the bottom of the order just produced when it needed to happen.
Definitely, the bottom of the order definitely produced. The top of the order in the beginning of the postseason also produced. But honestly, we have to give props to, obviously, David Ortiz for his leadership, for his veteran presence. I mean, batting 700 plus in the World Series, like that's insane. I don't know exactly where he lies in the history books, but he's got to be up there in terms of World Series performances. The fact that he was able to pull his team aside during that Game 4 game. Where in Game 4 when he addressed the whole team and made sure that everybody's mind was right and that they still had a chance and everything, and a lot has to be said about that.
What I think is remarkable about Ortiz too is how many big hits did he really have in the series other than the Grand Slam? I think that was the biggest hit in the series. But it just is remarkable, speaks to the whole team, is he may have had like one big hit and everyone else produced all the big hits when it needed. And I think that's remarkable as the team, as it says.
Real quick, before we move on to the next segment, I want to it's never too early to look at next year. I just want to go over real quick. There are obviously some big names that the Red Sox need to keep after winning a World Series. And a lot of teams go like, oh, let's keep everybody, but you got to get rid of some people and still reload not rebuild. So, Eric, what do you think they need to do?
Well, Ben Sherrington announced a short time ago today that he would extend qualifying offers, which is 1 year, $14 million for Mike Napoli, for Stephen Drew, and for Jacoby Ellsbury. Their other big free agent, Jared Saltalamacchia, will not get one of those offers, but it's clear that they want all of those guys back in one way or another. Whether they all come back is in question. Ellsbury, of course, is going to get big money somewhere, if not here in Boston. But Napoli is someone that they need back. They don't have much depth at first base in the organization. Saltalamacchia obviously had a tough World Series, but he's one of the best offensive catchers in the league. And Stephen Drew, as much as we called for his head to be pinch hit for, he was amazing defensively, and he hit well during the regular season. So all those guys could be back. The Red Sox want them back, but we'll see in the upcoming weeks whether they all come back.
We have a little bit more time to wrap it up. Go ahead.
There's definitely some moves that need to be made, and one thing that I don't know exactly who they should bring back per se, but they will have some trade bait with Joel Hammerhand and Bailey, who have been injured for pretty much the whole season. So it's going to be interesting to see what Ben Sherrington has planned for those names and who's going to bring in. Obviously, it'd be ideal to keep everybody because just to keep that winning culture and that winning mentality. But definitely some moves that need to be made and some considerations that need to be taken
real
into
quick,
account.
go ahead and add
Yeah, I mean,
something.
I would like for them to keep Bailey just in case Koji does not produce again what he is, because he is old. He came out of nowhere. But yeah, I would imagine Ellsbury signing is going to be a stretch. It's going to be very hard. He's a Scott Boras guy, so we'll see how that goes. But personally, I'd love to see Mike Napoli walk around the streets shirtless again, drunk and shirtless, sometime soon in Boston. I would love for them to have him back.
All right, it's a weird way to end that segment, but it was a good year for Boston. We're going to move on, though, now to NBA. And a big story right now, week 1 in the NBA, the 76ers are one of the undefeated teams right now. A lot of people are paying attention to the Houston Rockets, who are playing very well. But the 76ers have beaten both the Heat and the Bulls in their first 3 games. So, Jared, we'll start with you. What do you think of the Sixers, and does this mean anything?
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that most analysts of the NBA thought would be finishing in the bottom of the season. And for them to come out so far, come out 3-0, beat the Bulls, beat the Heat, and I mean, that's Derrick Rose and LeBron both being beat by this team. It was just pretty remarkable. I don't think Derrick Rose looked full of his capability. I don't think he looked great yet, but it's early. He's coming back from the season and surgery, so I mean, we'll see how it goes. But for now, it's surprising, but it's 3 games, so we'll see how it goes.
It is 3 games, Jared, and that's why we can't make a big deal out of this. The Heat and the Bulls are still going to be playoff contenders. It's early on in the season. Derrick Rose is coming back from an ACL injury, which we all know is very hard to come back. Not everybody's Adrian Peterson and can come back and freakishly right up the jump, perform and produce. But I give credit to the 76ers because they've kept these games close. But at the same time, the fact that they're giving up so much points is detrimental to them because they need to work on their defense. Everybody in the NBA at this point is working out the kinks, just like the Heat. The Heat, in their first 3 games, their ball movement was terrible, and their formations it just seemed like they were just trying to get a feel for the season. And LeBron said it. They looked comfortable, but now that the 76ers surprised them with the defeat, expect them and the Bulls to put their best foot forward and go back to that championship caliber style.
Well, can I say something? It's only...
It's a talk show. You can do whatever you want.
Only 3 games in, but you're taking away the fact that they just beat 2 playoff teams, and even without Rose, the Bulls were still one of the best teams. The Sixers have a lot of depth. I love the whole, we're from Boston, the Celtics big 3 method. It worked with the Heat. And honestly, it's going to work with the Sixers. They got Turner, Hawes, and now Michael Carter-Williams. I said he was going to be the next Rondo who could shoot and didn't have an attitude. That's what he's going to be. If he can stay consistent, they're going to have 3 guys who are 20-plus scorers, and it's going to be looking good for them. Obviously, their defense is a problem, but like you said, everybody has their problems. So
you got to take this into account. Can they keep up with the Pacers? No. The Pacers are
Why
big
not?
because they're not big enough. They're not big enough. They don't have that presence down low. They beat the Heat, who don't even have a substantial big man. They beat the Bulls, who Joakim Noah, he is a substantial big man, but he's not capable of getting the jobs done in terms of defense. He's more of an offensive rebound, defensive rebound type player.
I don't think you're giving Spencer Hawes enough credit. He's pretty good at center.
Spencer Hawes is good, but he is still very young in this league. Michael Carter is also very young. They're rookies. They're in a hot start right now, but best believe, quote me right now, that they're not going to be in first place.
We'll see. We got to move on, though, to the next subject, which is hockey. And hockey was an interesting week this past week with Ray Emery basically committing assault against another player during a fight. So I want to hear from our hockey guys, starting with Eric, what you think about, like, people may be overreacting, but what do you think about this whole scenario that's going on?
Well, I don't like what Ray Emery did. Obviously, he kind of went after, to use an NFL word, a defenseless player.
Yeah.
Braden Holtby wanted nothing to do with the fight that he was in, and Ray Emery kind of just pounded away on him. I was surprised the referees allowed it to happen. But the NHL has been dealing with this question for a couple of years now, ever since the new rules for head injuries have come in. Should fighting be allowed to stay in the NHL? I think, personally, I like fighting. I like the role that it has in the game. I think the fans love it. You see a fight happening in the NHL and everybody is on their feet. The fans love it. That's why I think it'll stay. But I think there's some modifications that have to be made to make it sick. Because what happened the other day was goon stuff. You don't want that. The days of line brawls and guys all over the ice, 5-on-5 fighting is kind of silly, to be honest. But the one-on-one guys, Sean Thornton going into the corner and fighting a guy that just laid out your best player, stuff like that to fire up the team. That's still needed in the game. I think to take that away would be wrong. But this stuff where it's for show and it's this 5-on-5, the goalies meeting at center ice. We saw a couple of years ago when Tim Thomas and Carey Price attempted to fight. They were on the ice within 2 seconds. It's kind of silly. It's kind of stupid. But the overall fighting in the NHL, I think it has a place and it needs to stay.
No, I agree. Hockey needs fighting. It's a big element of the sport, but there's hockey insiders that come out and just say fighting needs to be banned. And those are like the Kevin Paul DuPonts of the world saying, nope, no hockey. I've been saying it all along. We don't need hockey. Okay. First of all, Ray Emery, John Scott, those are the goons of hockey. Those are the rare cases of those idiots that just go out and just literally go out to hurt somebody. Braden Holtby was so defenseless, and what Ray Emery did, that was hard to watch. That was really embarrassing. It just speaks, anyways, for the Flyers. That is a pathetic team right now in hockey. It was 7-0, and then he charges across the ice, and that was hard to watch. But again, you touched on it. Hockey needs fighting because just when Sean Thornton goes into the boards and starts fighting somebody, everyone rises up. The fans get around him. But he's not doing it to hurt somebody. He's doing it for more of a sort of just to motivate everyone. It's more of something like that. And he's not going out after a defenseless Phil Kessel, who's way shorter than like John Scott did. And he's not going against a defenseless person. These are two people that want to fight. It's a volunteer thing. And the reason why I think fighting in hockey is necessary is because it's a way to kind of police the game. As in, these goons like John Scott should not be going around hitting people, because now that if there's fighting, players like Sean Thornton can police the game. They can get rid of that. So if we took out fighting, these players like John Scott and Ray Emery, for example, can just go and do whatever they want and not have that fear that somebody's going to come and put them in their place. So that's why I think fighting is very necessary. It's a way to police the game.
My question to you guys are the hockey experts and everything. Judging from what I hear from you guys, fighting plays a big role in terms of setting the tone for your team and making sure that everybody is passionate and gets back into the game, correct? So being that fighting is allowed, doesn't that open up the spectrum for just anybody like a Ray Emery to feel that they can hit up on anybody and realize that they're not going to get anything called for it?
Well, what I think for that is that's where they need to implement rules to say that cannot happen. Something like that. Those are rare cases that are being exemplified to speak in a whole term. How many times do you see that ever? It's only a few times where something like that happens. I think.
But people fight in hockey all the time. That's what I'm trying to say. Like,
and how many people are really that injured, really that assaulted like that? When were we talking about? There's only been 3 cases this season where something has happened during a fight where it's a rare case. It's only been 3 times. 98% of the hockey players agree that they want fighting in hockey through a recent poll. And so they like fighting, but I'll let Eric answer your
We have like a minute left. So
Well, right, and the thing is, when these things happen, everybody that's against fighting comes out and uses it as, a forum to say fighting should be banned, fighting should be banned. But like you said, this stuff is rare. That 5-on-5 stuff happens a few times a year. Like I said, it's silly, it's stupid. I don't think they need that. But the one-on-one fighting with the Sean Thornton and stuff like that, it needs to stay. It has, like you said, it polices the game. It keeps things under control. It keeps these guys like John Scott from going after Louis Erickson in the head when
that guy should just be out of hockey.
Right, that's a whole other discussion. What that guy did a couple of weeks ago. But these goons and stuff like that are playing in the NHL, they need to be held accountable, and that's why there's fighting in the game. But this 5-on-5 stuff, I can I can deal with that being thrown away. But
I think you both nailed it on the head, but then it's kind of what Davison was going into with fighting in general. With now, what if Emery went out and that was Sidney Crosby? All of a sudden, he'd be suspended for half the year. But
depending who he did, he should be suspended for half the year for that, anyways.
He wasn't suspended at all.
He should be. That's the thing is
I think we're all in agreement on that. So that's good.
Batman said they're gonna review it, but he was kind of passing it off. He should be suspended for that, regardless if it was the face of hockey or not. He should be.
All right, we gotta move on though. But that was a pretty good subject to go into. I thought that's pretty important in hockey fighting. It's obviously important to hockey fans. So. All right, moving on to the NFL. Speaking of fighting, this is kind of related as far as bullying. We have a weird scenario going on in the NFL with the Miami Dolphins, where Incognito is apparently bullying, or I'd say harassing's a better term.
Feels that way.
Jonathan Martin, another tackle, and Incognito's a guard. So as far as like what's going on, we have very minimal information about it. But what do you think? What do you think about this topic? It's a very rare case, and you don't see it in the NFL. So Eric.
Well, I think when the story first broke a couple of days ago, you kind of said, well, this is a rookie that's coming into the league. He was getting his normal hazing and bring the water bottles out to the field, dress up on the first road trip of the year, whatever it may be. But what came out today is kind of disturbing, to be honest. Richie Incognito left these voicemail messages to Martin that laced with racial slurs and things like that, where it forced this guy to take a grown man to take a leave of absence from the NFL. I mean, this is beyond bullying. It's beyond joking around. This is a guy who used his position on the team to put this other young player down for whatever reason, whether he didn't like him or whether he thinks it's funny. It's not. This is not a case of regular rookie hazing or bullying, whatever you want to call it. This is beyond that. It's this guy's life is kind of thrown about right now. We don't know where this guy is mentally. He's gone from the NFL at the moment, and you have this guy who's a veteran player who should be saying enough, trying to stop that stuff. He's the one who's carrying it on. It's not a good situation at all.
I mean, I totally agree with you 100%. It's just one of those things, just like hockey with fighting, that one of those unwritten things that says that, oh, this is acceptable. Rookie hazing and all of this is acceptable, and then it's that one person who takes it too far. He takes it to the next level. And Richie Incognito is just an example of that. The fact, and not only Richie Incognito, by the way, there's various people on the team that are involved in this. The fact that Incognito made it a requirement for rookies to pay for the team dinner, it's unheard of. These guys get paid $400,000 approximately a year to play football. They're rookies that are trying to get those big contracts, and yet you're gonna exhaust their funds by making them pay for team dinners. Like what is that? That's taking it way too far. Hazing has existed for many years in football. Our most recent example is Prince Makumura.
No problem.
With Prince from the Giants and JPP throwing him in the ice bath.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
It's always existed, but not to this extreme. Like Eric was saying, this is too far. I mean, good for the. I feel like the Dolphins didn't really want to suspend Incognito, but they had no other choice just because the media was throwing pressure on it. Yeah. But it's definitely something that needs to be addressed. Don't be surprised if a situation where Incognito and Martin is the And it isn't the only case. This is definitely happening in most NFL teams.
All right, Jared, wrap it up first.
Well, I mean, first of all, he's not even a rookie anymore. He's not even a rookie. He's a second-year player. This whole entire thing, what speaks to me is, what is even going on in the Dolphins locker room? Okay, first of all, why did no one ever stand up and say, hey, that's probably enough? There's coaches in there. There's equipment managers in there. Why is the word not getting around until now where it had to be to the point where he has to leave? Why didn't Jonathan Martin say anything? Why was he so afraid? He's a big dude. He's 6'5", 300 pounds. He could easily put them in their place just in a not fighting way. Just really show them up. Be like, hey, listen, like, I'm huge. I'm going to make this stop. But why is the coach not ever step into this? Like, the word had to get around this was going on. And
Philbin was way too relaxed.
Yeah.
The Dolphins are 4-4. They're pretty close to getting somewhere. They just beat the Bengals with all this going on. But it's just like, good luck to that team. What a disaster that's going on right now. This is horrible.
Shame on the Dolphins, the leaders on that team, the coaching staff. Don't tell me they didn't know this was going on. This was happening in the locker room. This was happening at team dinners, at team meetings, wherever it may be. It's ridiculous that you're telling me nobody saw this and nobody put a stop to it. It's shame on the coaching staff and the leaders on that team.
All right, we got to move on to the next topic, but I mean, we just got to throw this out there. Jonathan Martin gets paid more than Incognito. So, I mean, it's like typical bully stuff. And like, I mean, like, I've never had that experience of being bullied, but it's basically, like, this guy has more money than me, so I'm going to bully him because I'm older. It's getting ridiculous in the NFL. It doesn't belong in the NFL. But before we wrap up the show, we're going to end it with our debate. I'm going to send it over to a man who loves the NBA as much as his family.
Of course.
Jared Doherty. Introduce the debate for us.
Okay, so for this debate, it's going to be between Jeremy and Eric, and the debate topic is to tank or not to tank. Should the Boston Celtics tank their season to possibly get a good draft pick? So, Jeremy, I'll let you take it away.
All right, I'll start off, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. You don't run millions of dollars into an organization and tank a season. That's not how it works. They're going to play their hearts out. It's not a good team, but they're still going to play to win. You're not going to see them every game like all of a sudden, we're throwing in Phil Pressey in there like as our starting point guard. You're not going to see that. You're going to see them play with the best players they have and try and win games. Good.
Okay. Well, I hate losing as much as anybody. I don't want to see them lose. But I'll just use the Red Sox as an example. Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom before you can win again. The Red Sox finished in last place last year. They were down and out. They traded away 3 of their best players, and it allowed them to bring in more new players to get back to where they are. Obviously, different situation. If the Celtics were to tank their season, they would be rebuilding through the draft.
Yeah.
But
or free agency.
But if halfway through the season, they're where they are right now, where they're 0-3 right now, and they don't look like they can finish a game at all. I don't know if you saw last night's game, but it was a disaster. If they're at that point halfway through the season, they're going to say, you know what? Play the young guys, play Phil Pressey, play Chris Humphries, who's he's got his own issues, but play guys like that. Go out there, whatever. Play the rest of the schedule. If we lose, we lose. And hopefully we get a good pick in the draft, which is supposed to be this great draft coming up.
I'm glad you brought up baseball, but that's still a terrible example. We're talking about a league with a cap, a league where free agents choose to go where they want, where there are other good players. So that's going to be like the whole KG and Ray Allen thing was a fluke situation that they were able to get that to happen. That was like a once-in-a-lifetime chance. But as far as like saying, tanking for the draft, if we tank for the draft every year, right now Tim Duncan and Kevin Durant would be on the Celtics. But instead, we drop back in the draft because we lose in the lottery because that's how the NBA is. You can't trust it. You just can't trust it.
But it gives you a better opportunity to rebuild the team again if you have a higher pick.
It gives you a better chance.
The Celtics have no reason to finish in the 7th or 8th seed and lose in the first round. What good is that?
Getting the younger guys some playoff experience. That's all you're going to get out of it. But it's still not the greatest thing on the planet.
But if you're a 7th or 8th place team and you're just average all the time, then nobody's going to have any, motivation. Oh, we made the playoffs. That's good. Let's just keep doing this for a while. We'll lose in the first round.
Well, let me just say, the top 20 in this year's draft is unbelievable.
Right.
So if they go to the playoffs, they still have a shot at getting a top draft pick. And we don't know how the Nets are going to be. They're an older team. They could get hurt, beat up, and we could get a higher pick with that.
Right.
But we'll have to see.
Bottom line is, if halfway through the season, if they're in the middle of the pack or towards the bottom, they're not going to say, okay, let's go all out and
think
try to win the rest of the games.
You think the players are going to say that, though?
No, but the coaching staff and the general manager will.
All right, so Davison, who do you think won that one?
I'm going to have to go with Eric, honestly.
All right, and I'm going to have to go with Jeremy. So because we have a tie, we're going to go to our booth guys.
Tide.
So because we have a tie, we're going to head to the booth, and they're going to give us their answer of who they think won this one. All right,
Eric.
so if you guys haven't picked that up on the camera, the winner of this debate is Eric. Nice job, guys.
It's pretty good
Thank
debate.
you.
Just one quick correction, Jeremy.
Yeah.
The reason why I didn't vote for you
Okay.
is
Quickly.
because the San Antonio Spurs tanked the year before they got Tim Duncan, and that helped them out. So, kind of gives
But the
credit
Celtics did too, and it didn't work out for them. That's why I
But
was
Tim
trying to
Duncan
put-
is who he is.
of
Five-time
course,
champion.
Of course.
It worked out for them. Why couldn't it work out for the Celtics?
Yeah,
Just saying.
yeah. I like your thought process. But I don't necessarily agree with it. All right, well, that's all we got for this week. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks from us at Studio 73. We'll see you in later November.